Monster City Madhouse, a year-round online store full of Halloween and classic horror shirts, with an emphasis on the vintage look. Use code SAVE10 for 10% off your order. MonsterCityMadhouse.com. Free shipping and financing's available. Welcome back to Southern Ghost Stories. I am the American Haunt Historian, Alan Searcy. I'm glad you guys are with me. Hey, Christmas is right around the corner. Don't forget, my new book, Hexed, and also The Sausage King, are available for $9.99 right now through, I think, December 25th on Amazon.com. Both the books fit perfectly in a stocking. You can also gift wrap them. Someone would be really happy to get them. Also, I've been seeing a lot of new reviews on Spotify and iTunes. Thank you guys so much. They mean a lot to me. They help the podcast get further up in the rankings. So please, if you haven't done so, leave us a 5-star review. Leave us a comment. Tell us what you like. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. So let's just kind of get back into things. The last show, I found these eerie Christmas legends kind of all over the world. And I found so many, I really had to just kind of break things up because I can't just dump them into this one big hour and a half long episode. So we're going to do part 2 of that. So one of the really weird things I found up in Canada, up in Newfoundland, you guys ever heard of the Nalujuit? And I got to apologize in advance because I'm a hillbilly from Tennessee. There's a very good chance I could screw up some of these pronunciations. So the Nalujuit, according to the Canadian lore, on January 6th, that marks the arrival of the Nalujuit. He's this terrifying figure who emerges not from a toy workshop like Santa, but from the frozen sea, from the ice. He's dressed in tattered caribou hides and sealskin boots, and his face is hidden behind these grotesque masks of fur or cloth. There's multiple of the Nalujuit. It's not just one. They come out of the ice, and they march into the village carrying these heavy wooden staffs, or sometimes harpoons, depending on the legend. And the Nalujuit, they are the heathen spirit of the ice. They represent the wild and forgiving nature of the north, and they bring a chill to the celebration, and it has nothing to do with the temperature. But their visit is known as the Nalujuit night. Say that 5 times fast. I barely got it once. But the Nalujuit night, it's a high-stakes test of character for the local children, and it's far more intense than sitting on Santa Claus's lap. These mysterious figures, they run through the snowy streets, actively hunting down the children. If a child has been good and sings a carol to appease them, they might receive a treat. But if the kids have been naughty, the Nalujuit will chase them down and strike them with their sticks and pretty much just ruin their Christmas. So that's a really wild, eerie tale I discovered up in Newfoundland I'd never really heard before. So something else I found, and this is over in Japan. It's the Namahage. And these, in the West, we tell kids, be good or Santa will give you coal. In Japan, they tell the kids, be good or a demon will come kick down your door and peel the skin off your feet. What? So the Namahage, they're these grotesque, oversized creatures with like demon faces, with horns, fangs, and wild, unkempt hair. And there's 2 of these. One of them wears a red mask, and this represents the male Oni, which are like male demons, or a blue or green mask, which represents the female Oni, the female demons. They wear heavy capes. They're made of straw, and this gives them this wild mountain beast kind of silhouette kind of figure. And what they carry with them, a large wooden kitchen knife, sometimes covered in silver foil to look even sharper. And this is the tool they use for peeling. They also carry a pail. And of course, the pail, this wooden bucket, is used to hold the peeled skin off the children's feet. Yeah, go figure. So, but the Namahage, they descend from the snowy mountains at night. They don't sneak in. They stomp loudly. They're not trying to be like Santa Claus and be sneaky and come down your chimney. These guys are coming right down the mountains, going to burst in your door. They burst through the door, they growl, they scream, and they have these catchphrases that they scream in this guttural roar. And I told you guys I'm a hillbilly from Tennessee. I'm not going to try to pronounce these Japanese phrases, but I will translate them for you. The first phrase they ask are there any crybabies here? The next phrase is, are there any lazy people here? And the third phrase, the Namahage chant, are there any naughty children here? They stomp through the house, opening closets, looking under furniture where terrified children might be hiding, and they grab the children who scream and promise to be good. Some versions of the tale, the Namahage, they carry a book, kind of like Santa's list, checking for naughty or nice, and they check the records of the children, and they tell the parents exactly what the kid did wrong that year. That's kind of bad. You got a Namahage spying on you year-round. But in order to combat them, the head of the household, usually the grandfather or father, they try to intervene. They go to the Namahage, and if the demon says, your son doesn't study enough, the father will say, I will make them study all year. Please, have a drink of sake and spare my child. And sometimes this works, sometimes it don't. If they're satisfied, they'll stand up, they'll bless the house for a good harvest, and moved on to the next door neighbor. And the thing is, I told you guys, they have like straw. If it comes stomping around your house, if the straw falls to the ground, you can't sweep it up. The fallen straw from the Namahage is considered, it's good luck, good health. It means your house won't burn down in the coming year. And they say, they're trying to scare out the bad luck and the laziness from the community. So that's a pretty terrifying thing. A Christmas creature that will peel the skin off your feet if you're being bad. So Scandinavia, Norway, Sweden, Denmark, Finland, the Nessie, or Nessie, I'm sorry. And they also called a tomtu, usually in Sweden. It's kind of the same creature. So if you walk into Target or IKEA Christmas, you see these cute bearded gnomes with red hats. They look kind of cuddly, right? Like garden gnomes. Well, the Nessie, it's not a cuddly toy. It's like a paranormal protection racket. It's a solitary, short-tempered spirit with the strength of 10 men. He doesn't work for Santa. He works for the farm. Like a mafia enforcer, if you don't pay him for his protection on Christmas Eve, he doesn't leave. He breaks your legs or he kills your livestock. And what he wants from you, he doesn't want money. He wants porridge. He wants some soup. He's the size of a small child, 3 or 4 foot long, weather-beaten face, long white beard. Those kind of like one of the 7 dwarfs. Historically, they wear gray clothing, kind of like peasant wool. Looks like a dirty farmhand, except he's really tiny. Whereas the bright red hat, but the thing is, he's super strong. He can lift a horse or a fallen tree. He can be everywhere at once on the farm. And they say that if you've offended him, he'll pinch or he'll kick you in your sleep. And the thing is, he works 364 days a year on your farm, grooming horses, making sure your farm's running right. He does all the stuff in the shadows. You don't know he's there until Christmas Eve when he comes. But when he comes on Christmas Eve, he demands that you serve his porridge, his Christmas porridge, in the barn or sometimes the attic, depending on the variation of the tale. But the thing is, the porridge must be hot. And there's a very crucial detail to this, or the Nessie's going to be pretty upset with you. On top of the porridge, in this bowl, there needs to be a very generous lump of butter melting in the center. And this is, I told you, this is you can't negotiate this. No butter is a breach of the contract. The punishment is violence. There's stories where a poor farmer, he couldn't afford much butter to appease the Nessie. So what he did was he put the butter at the bottom of the soup, hoping it would melt upward, giving the illusion of lots of butter in the porridge. Well, the Nessie looked in the bowl, saw no butter, and he flew into a rage. He marched into the dairy barn, and he snapped the neck of the prize cow. Later, he ate the porridge, he found the butter at the bottom, and he felt kind of bad because he did put some butter in there, but it wasn't on top like he was supposed to. He didn't resurrect the cow. He went to the neighbor's house, went to their farm, he stole their cow and brought it back and placed the dead one. So he's the Nessie's this spirit little gnome who works on your farms in Switzerland and Finland. It's a really wild and crazy thing that I'd never even heard of. Something else he does, if he likes a horse, he will braid its mane and he'll steal hay from the neighbor's house to feed it. But the thing is, you can never undo the braids if you come in and find your horse's hair braided, because it's an insult, slap in the face to the Nessie. If he doesn't like a horse, he will ride it all night long until it's covered in sweat and exhausted in the morning. I'm not sure how that pertains to the legend or what. I mean, I don't know. But anyway, that's the legend. People in Finland, they believe that kind of stuff. So, but if you're ever in Norway on Christmas Eve and you see a bowl of porridge by a barn door, don't touch it. It's not for you. The guy it belongs to, who's waiting for it, he has a very short fuse. So here's another one of my favorite, and I might butcher this one too, but this takes place in Finland as well. It's the Nuutipuki. The Nuutipuki. It's like the hokey pokey, the Nuutipuki. And he comes from Finland, and we all know Santa is, that's kind of like their Santa, but you know what? It's like a goat man. Before Coca-Cola gave us the red suit, the Finnish gift bringer was the Nuutipuki. He was a horned masked creature that didn't come to give us toys or give toys to the good boys and girls. He came to drink your beer. The Nuutipuki, it was the tradition. It wasn't about peace on earth. It was a rowdy, terrifying home invasion where young men dressed up as monsters demand the last of your holiday leftovers. If you didn't pay up, they'd come wreck your house. And this took place on St. Newt's Day, which is January 13th. So in the United States and the UK, we have the 12 Days of Christmas, which ends on January 6th. In Nordic tradition, Christmas lasts 20 days, ending January 13th. So he wears sheepskin or like fur coats, but he wears them inside out. And he was kind of like this shaman who troped across Europe. And supposedly, like the rawhide or the beast side of his coat symbolized the wearer shedding his humanity to become a spirit animal. And his mask, it was made of like birch bark or leather. He was painted with charcoal or sometimes even blood to make it red. He often had horns to make from a goat or a ram to make him look menacing. And he would carry around a wooden spoon. Like if you come to your house and demand soup, you had to give it to him. He'd come eat your soup or stew with a wooden spoon. He'd also bring a broom into your house, supposedly sweep the holiday out of the house. That was kind of like what it was meant for. You know, they were meant to be unrecognizable and terrifying, and the children, they were afraid of them. Of course you would be. These guys in these creepy masks come in your house with a broom with horns on their head. I'd be pretty scared of them too. So yeah, it was young men, usually already drunk or intoxicated, moving from house to house in a pack. They wouldn't knock. They'd barge in, stomping and yelling. And they demand the remnants of Yule, specifically ale, beer, or any kind of leftover ham or turkey, any kind of food. They come in, is there beer in the house, or did we break the oven? So threatening the oven in January in Finland, that's a serious threat. You know, you can't eat, you can't heat the house. The host usually generous, though. The goats, they sang songs, danced with the residents, and told jokes. And eventually, you know, the Nuutipuki, it was a scary goat man. But this is like in the 1800s. So as time goes on, the Nuutipuki, it kind of morphs into the Santa Claus legend. The name never really changed over there, but the outfit kind of did. You know, he went from the rags and the wooden mask into becoming Santa Claus. So yeah, it's still something that goes on over there, and it's kind of like more tradition now. And they drink beer all night, eat food, and you gotta watch out for the Nuutipuki. So another thing over in France and Switzerland, kind of in the same general vicinity of the world, it's called the Old Woman. And the translation, she's the Chauchevel, and it's just a malevolent spirit. And I probably butchered the spelling. I told you I'm from Tennessee. And she serves as the dark opposite of Santa Claus. So she specifically hunts people who skip midnight mass on Christmas Eve. And her name, it derives from the French chaucher, to press or to trample. If she catches you sleeping when you should be at church, this is where it gets creepy. She enters your house in the dead of night, and she sits on your chest, literally crushing the breath out of you. She's the personification of sleep paralysis, this evil demon, but it's tied to this religious disobedience during the holidays. So even if you have to work, or even if you've had family over, you've eaten too much, you can't just go to bed. You have to go to midnight mass. That's a thing, or that's when the old woman comes to get you. In some versions, she's actually a pretty maiden. If you leave your laundry on Christmas Eve, she'll twist and tear it to shreds, so you have nothing to wear for the new year. Depends on what part of the country you're at. Another one I found, the Frogaden, and this is over in Germany, and I probably butchered the pronunciation there. This is like the Phantom Huntress, according to the lore in Germany. And supposedly, she was a noblewoman. She was very wealthy, came from very wealthy parents. She loved to hunt. She liked to go on these lavish fox hunts, where she'd go out there in the woods and hunt foxes. That's what, the kind of upper crust did back then. And she loved hunting so much that as she was getting older, about to die, she said, "The hunt is better than heaven." Well, that was like a slap in the face to God. He replied, "You will hunt forever." They say she died instantly and became like this ghostly figure. And now during the 12 days of Christmas in Germany, she leads this wild hunt through the sky. They say she's accompanied by 24 phantom hounds, and if you leave your door open on Christmas Eve, one of her small white dogs might run inside. And here's the thing, if you get like a little white dog comes in your house, you have to treat it kindly. And if you do, she'll make sure you have good luck, good fortune for the coming year. But if you kick it out and turn it away, it turns to stone right there on your doorstep. And the stone is too heavy to move. And basically it curses the house and it assures you misfortune until end of the following year. So yeah, you see a white dog running to your house Christmas Eve, don't kick it out. Give it some turkey or something. Take good care of it. So here's another one from Switzerland. It's called the Straggle. And that just sounds creepy right there. We talked about Frau Bruschetta earlier in another episode, and the Straggle is kind of similar. These shadowed, hairy, demonic figures that follow her, Bruschetta, during the Christmas season. And they're like her muscle. While Bruschetta judges the spinning, I told you you had to spin the yarn. If there was any wool left, she would get onto you. All your spinning had to be done before Christmas or the New Year. That was like considered sloth or lazy, and that was forbidden. Well, they are the executioners. They are said to rob the household of their holiday feast. They steal butter, meat, milk, whatever you had, ale. And if you don't have any food or drink, the Straggle will take your children. Yeah, man, if the wind screams around your house on Epiphany Eve, it said the Straggle are trying to rip the roof tiles off your home. And you probably just better try to get inside. Yeah, all kinds of weird ball stuff. I mean, you over here we kind of got it good. There's not a lot of really crazy stories, but over in Europe, yeah. But the granddaddy of them all, Krampus. Have you guys heard of Krampus? I'm sure you have. There was a movie a couple years ago, Krampus. It did really well in the theaters. I remember. It's just kind of an odd note. It came out several years ago when Star Wars came out. It's like the same weekend. And I went with my wife, my best friend, and my daughter. We were all excited to go see Star Wars. And my wife, she's kind of give her take on Star Wars. Well, we go to the theater, we buy our tickets. She's like, "I want to go see Krampus." What? Star Wars just came out. Yeah, go see Star Wars. Well, she went to see Krampus, and me and my buddy and my daughter went and saw Star Wars, as we should. Anyway, so Krampus. I'm sure you guys know of him. He's supposedly from the Alpine region of Europe. And he doesn't come on Christmas. He comes the night of December 5th. And he's like the enforcer, the punisher, the shadow of St. Nick. Well, Santa Claus, that's a lie we tell the children to make them happy. Krampus is the truth. We tell them to make them behave. He is kind of the bad cop to St. Nicholas's good cop, right? While Santa brings gifts to the good, Krampus doesn't just leave coal. He brings physical violence. He beats the naughty with sticks. He chains them up, or he stuffs them in a sack to drag them to hell. He is the ultimate answer to the question, what happens if I'm on the naughty list? Yeah, Krampus is about to get you. And he's not a Christian invention. He's thousands of years old. He is a survival of the horn god archetype from the Alpine paganism. Originally, he was likely a spirit associated with driving away winter ghosts or ensuring fertility. But the Catholic Church hated him. They tried to ban Krampus celebrations for centuries, calling it devil worship. The tradition is too popular to kill. In the 17th century, the church successfully chained him to St. Nick. They said, fine, the demon can stay, but he must serve the saint. So this is why Krampus often wears chains, when you see him on movie posters or pictures or whatever. It's not to make him look scary. It symbolizes that the church has bound the devil to do God's dirty work. And if you know his appearance, he's a mix of a goat and a demon, long painted horns. And his tongue, that's a signature trait. It's incredibly long, red, and lolls out of his mouth. It's kind of like a symbol of lewdness and hunger. They say he has one human foot and one cloven hoof. Some of the variations, he has two hooves. He has shaggy black or brown goat fur. And they say he smells like sulfur, wet fur, and burning coal. You can only imagine how smelly that guy is. And he usually arrives with a bundle of birch branches. And the original meaning for that, it's like a pagan fertility symbol, whipping someone to wake up their life force. But today it's kind of like a tool for corporal punishment. He hits people on the legs with this or beats them. He also carries rusted chains, cowbells. So you're going to hear him before you see him. The clanking and the ringing in the dark is kind of just a warning signal. And St. Nick, he has a bag for toys, right? He brings all the toys, the good girls and boys. Well, Krampus has a bag for bodies. Legend says he stuffs the worst children inside to carry them to his lair, or sometimes just throw them in there, then throw the bag in the river. So yeah, you don't want to cross Krampus. December 5th, that is Krampus night. The monster owns the streets. They run wild, drinking and scaring people. December 6th is St. Nicholas Day. The sun comes up, the monsters leave, and the saint arrives to give gifts to all the children. So it's funny because different parts of the region, I know I was in Salem, Massachusetts a couple years ago in December, and they have a Krampus celebration in Salem where you can go and you can, they have these Krampus figures kind of walking the streets. It's really eerie, really creepy to see them. I didn't know, I went up there for a long weekend to research one of the books. And my buddy and I are driving down the street and look over, and there's this Krampus, like 7 foot tall, walking with a group of people, and other folks dressed in rags, and it's really, really creepy. So modern day, or getting the 20th century, in 1930s, people in Austria, later the Nazis, they were suspicious of Krampus. They felt it was primitive and uncontrollable invention of the social democrats, or just too chaotic for their ordered society. They banned him. 1950, post-war, Austria tried to make him cute to sell to tourists, but the rural villages kind of kept him scary. Today, he's back in full force as a symbol of Alpine pride, rebellion, and he's just, just a stark contrast to Santa Claus. People don't want to have warm and fuzzy Christmases. They like spooky stuff. So Krampus, he's got his own movies. They have his festivals. He's the man right now. So something else I found, this is kind of fun, the Lougarou. I know I got a book about cryptids, and the Rougarou was a big thing in Louisiana. Well, in Quebec, the legend of the Lougarou up there in Canada, it's a very different take on this classic werewolf story. Forget about full moons or getting bitten by a beast. In French-Canadian folklore, turning into a monster is a direct consequence of spiritual laziness. The legend warns that any Catholic who fails to attend Mass or go to confession for 7 years straight is cursed. So I guess if you go to confession don't go for 6 years, but you go on the 7th year, you're good. But yeah, 7 straight is bad. So while the rest of the village is safe inside the church for Christmas Eve midnight Mass, the person who doesn't go for the 7th year is outside. And they say supposedly transform into a large wolf, a black dog, or even an ox, condemn the room, the frozen landscape until dawn. In curing a Lougarou, it doesn't require a violent end with a silver bullet, like you see in those werewolf movies. According to the tales, the curse is broken simply by drawing its blood. A brave soul must confront this large, mysterious beast and manage to cut it. Just a small prick on the forehead or a way to get blood, but they say it's on his forehead. Could you prick his finger? I don't know. I'd still be scared to walk up to a big old werewolf. Instantly, the monster, upon being pricked, it reverts back to its human form, usually revealing themselves to be, just a neighbor or a friend. But this cure of being mortal again, it comes with the strict condition of silence. Whoever was brave enough to prick the werewolf must never reveal the werewolf's identity to anyone, or the curse will be transferred to them. So I guess if you went and you cured someone of being a Lugaroo, and you went to the tavern and you had a couple beers, started talking, oh, guess what? I cured Jimmy the other day. He was a werewolf. Boom, that's what happened to you. So that's the legend anyway. So here's what I found in Russia. And this is kind of creepy. It's Russian folklore, it gets a little wild there in Suffocating, which is January 7th to the 19th. It's a 2-week window. They say it's a time without a cross, where the barrier between living and dead is dangerously thin. So long before the Russians had the kindly dead Moroz, which is Grandfather Frost, to bring them gifts, they feared this ancient predecessor, Karishin. Karishin is the Slavic god of the underworld and the winter solstice, but he isn't a jolly old elf. He's this cruel subterranean deity who commands the frost, traveling not with a reindeer, but with a group of wolves that conjure snowstorms and bears that turn into blizzards. While Santa cares about, whether you're naughty or nice, Karishin didn't care if you've been good or bad. He only cares if you are weak. He represents the lethal indifference of a Russian winter, where being caught outside doesn't result in a lump of cold, but in hypothermia, death. In ancient times, people believed that when the temperature dropped, it was because the Karishin were tightening its grip on the world of the living. They were just freezing the souls of anyone foolish enough to underestimate the cold. So, you think times are hard back then. I guess it's a way they would, make sure that you were doing your work. You weren't being lazy. A lot of these folklores go back to being lazy and sloth and making sure you're being productive members of society. And I think at the Karishin, it's kind of like a thing. You have to make sure you're doing your work, your house is clean, you got enough firewood for the winter. So, yeah, but I've enjoyed these deep dives, these weird wild legends, and it's a lot of fun. Over here we have St. Nick, and I think there's a little goblin in Louisiana, but besides that, there's really not any crazy creatures for Christmas. All those are over in Europe or France. So as we're winding down here, I want to remind you guys, Hexed, my new book, it's a great stocking stuffer. It's on sale for $9.99 over at Amazon. You can wrap it, put it under a tree. Also, I told you, I've been getting some reviews. I appreciate you guys. Please leave us some more, especially on Spotify. Just wherever you find us, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, leave a review. Also, send me some more questions. I'm going to get back into the Q&As probably in January. But yeah, I've got a few already set aside. I'll be answering those probably early next year. But yeah, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, find us Southern Ghost Stories, and send us some comments, questions. And check back next week. I got some more ghostly stories for you. All right, see you guys then.